There was once some rugby in the rain, where stoppages muddled the game. Big super sides fell to shocks no one would tell, while Europeans and South Africans stole some fame. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Roundup, 22nd of April 2026. It is I, Big Mike here at Big Mike of Rugby. Now let's talk all about our beautiful game. Now we have had a few weeks off from the Roundup, but I am going to try and do my best to bring you all of last week's action and do a lovely roundup of everything else happening in the last few weeks. But enough of all that. Let's get to the roundup. Let's start with our upset of the week, which goes to Super Rugby. This one was brought to you by Canberra, once again supplying us with the goods. It was the Brumbies hosting the Fijian Drua, a team who had only had one win away from home in their existence since 2022. Brumbies, of course, are just one win away from the first Australian team sweeping New Zealand team since 2004, the last time the Brumbies won a full title. Now, Brumbies started early by scoring a try before the Drua got ahead 22 points to 7 at half time. Another converted try for the Brumbies after the break made it close. And then there was a penalty and a try to the Drua. Yellow card meant that the Brumbies had a chance to come back. Two converted tries, making this one 30 points to 28 in the Drua's favour, before a 79th minute penalty and holding off at the end gave the Drua a famous 33-28 victory in Canberra. We will take it to the URC for our scrap of the week. And this one was a bit of a wild one in Ireland with Ulster and Leinster, two top Irish teams going at it last weekend. Leinster actually got out to a 29-0 lead with 25 minutes left. Then they got themselves a little red card. What happened was 3 converted tries to Ulster in less than 10 minutes. It was 29-21, and these two teams were fighting and clawing for Irish glory until the final minute. This game finished 29-21 Leinster over Ulster in our scrap of the week. A few games could be up for our shellacking of the week, our beatdown of the week, but it actually went to the English Premiership, where it was 6th, taking on 7th, as Saracens took on the Saracens Sharks. At half-time in this one, Saracens were up 38-0. After 60 minutes, they were up 66-5, then got up to 78-5 before a converted try to the Sale Sharks. One more try on each side gave this one 85-19. Saracens over Sale. This one will go down in history again as Mr. Kalori, the outside back for Saracens, scored 5 tries. And I hate to do it, but our game of the week comes back to Super Rugby as well. This one, top of the table clash. It was first taken on 3rd as the Hurricanes were away from home against the Chiefs. Tight first half meant Hurricanes went into the break at 12-3 up before a converted try to the Chiefs made this one 10-12 with 30 minutes left. A try that was not converted to the Hurricanes in the 62nd minute before a converted try for the Chiefs in the 73rd. Damian McKenzie missed a penalty in the 79th minute to make this one 17-all. And they went into extra time. 5 minutes in, Damian McKenzie went for a drop goal. It got charged down. It got picked up by one of his teammates, Mr. Wallace Satiti, who scored a try to make this one 22 points to 17. Chiefs over the Hurricanes. So let's get into our results. The Women's Six Nations has just had its second week. And let's look at the games from the first 2 weeks. First week saw favourites England beat Ireland 33-12. Second favourites France took down Italy 40-7. And Scotland won a tight one over Wales 24-19. This last weekend, games were not as close. Ireland beat Italy 57 points to 20. France beat Wales 38-7. And in another game that could have been the beatdown of the week, it was 35-7 at half-time, before finishing 84 points to 7. England over Scotland. England and France unbeaten after 2 rounds, Ireland sitting in third. More international rugby now, as we've had 2 weeks of the Pacific 4 series. In the first game, Black Ferns of New Zealand beat USA 48-15, and after a thunder delay and elimination of all the crowd, Canada beat Australia 24-0. Weekend we just had, USA beat Australia 33-12, and after being down 14-5 at half-time, Black Ferns of New Zealand turned this one on in the second half, beating Canada by a very convincing 36 points to 14. New Zealand unbeaten. Canada and the USA have both had victories over Australia going into our last week this weekend. To club action now. We go to the URC that had a few weeks off the European Rugby. Last weekend, as I mentioned, Leinster got up 29-21 over Ulster. Edinburgh won a close one, 31-30 over Zebre. The Bulls rampaging 47-7 over Dragons. Connacht making the Irish teams looking good, 33-24 over the Stormers. Lions, huge upset in this one, 54-12 over Glasgow, top of the table. Cardiff went up over Scarlets in the Welsh battle, 28-24. Munster 45, Benetton 15, and in the final game, Ospreys beat the Sharks 21-17. Glasgow still sitting on top of the table, 4 points ahead of the Stormers and Leinster. Then you've got the Lions, Ulster, Munster, Cardiff, and the Bulls rounding out our top 8, with Connacht just 1 point behind the Bulls, chasing them closely. We have 3 rounds left. Round 21 of top 14. La Rochelle, big 45-15 victory over Bordeaux. Clermont, 41-23 over Lyon. Pau at Bayonne, 54-22. Montpellier got a great 42-31 victory over Perpignan. Toulon adding to Montauban's woes, winning this one 47-22. It was 42-25. Toulouse over Castres. And Racing 92, 47-20 over Stade Francais. Toulouse very comfortable, top of the table by 12 points over Pau. Then you've got Montpellier, Stade Francais, Bordeaux, and Clermont rounding out our top 6. Racing 92 is just 2 points behind. 7 points behind the top 6. You've got La Rochelle and Toulon clinging on to hope. We have 3 rounds left in D2. Varn sitting on top of the table with 105 points, 22 victories, 4 losses and a draw. Behind them in 86 you have Colomiers, then Provence, Valencia-Mans, Brive and Oyonnax round out your top 6. Premiership action now. Saracens beat Salé, as I mentioned, 85-19. Bristol 53-12 over Gloucester. Leicester 62-3 over Newcastle. Bath 48-15 over Harlequins, and in the only close one of the weekend, Northampton got up over Exeter 35-28. We've got Northampton up the top with Bath, Leicester and Exeter rounding out our top 4. Bristol appear to be the only team within reach. Since our last chat, we have had the European Champions Cup and Challenge Cup quarterfinals, and round of 16, but quarterfinals as well. So just a quick recap. Our semi-finalists are Bath after beating Northampton in an absolutely astonishing 43-41 game. Toulon, upset victory over heavy favourites Glasgow, 22-19. Leinster, 43-13 comfortable over the Salé Sharks. And in the battle of the French heavyweights, you have Bordeaux and Toulouse going 30-15 in Bordeaux's favour. There will be no repeat of last year's final, but Bordeaux could do it once again. It'll be Leinster taking on Toulon, and Bordeaux versus last year's Challenge Cup winners, Bath. In the Challenge Cup quarterfinals, we had Ulster take down La Rochelle 41-14, Montpellier get up over Connacht 45-22, Dragon somehow still going, representing Wales 35-32 over Zebre, and another Italian team lost in the quarterfinals as Exeter took down Benetton 41-44. It'll be Ulster and Exeter in one, Montpellier and Dragons in the other semi-final. To Japan League 1 Division 1, the Wild Knights are sitting on top of the table. Their last game, 34-24 victory over the Blue Reds. Second on the table, we've got the Kobe Steelers. They got up against Toyota Verblitz, 38-24. Then we've got the Kubota Spears, rounding out our top three. Close 27-22 victors over Tokyo Sun Goliath. Other results from last weekend, the Black Rams, 49, Honda Heat 5. Cannon Eagles 33, the D-Rocks 15. And Brave Lupus, 45-26 over the Dynabors. Brave Lupus are holding on to 6 points ahead of Toyota Verblitz and the Honda Heat. Black Rams and Sun Goliath are 4th and 5th. Two teams sit up top of Division 2. They are the Kanetsu Liners and Shuttles Aichi. Super Rugby had one of the greatest rounds they've ever had going into Super Round this weekend. First game, Blues were up by 3 tries against the Highlanders before narrowly winning 47-40. Despite another weather delay in another game, the Waratahs got up against Moana Pacifica, who have been cancelled. They are looking for money. If you've got an extra 10 mil, pay for Moana Pacifica to still go. Waratahs won that one 29-24. We had that Chiefs Hurricanes game 22-17, like I mentioned, the Drua taking it to the Brumbies 33-28. And a shock win in Perth as the Western Force got up over the Crusaders 31-26. Chiefs are sitting top of the table. Then you've got the Hurricanes, the Blues, the Brumbies, the Reds, and the Crusaders. The Waratahs are 2 points behind the Crusaders. The Drua, Highlanders, and Force can still technically find their way up there. Moana Pacifica don't appear to have a shot. Out of those teams mentioned, the Hurricanes, the Reds, and the Waratahs all have a game in hand. Major League Rugby with its 6 teams has started. In the very first game, Anthem RC got their first ever victory against the California Legion, 39-26. They then went down 33-19 to Anthem RC as the Seattle Seawolves and California Legion got their first wins of the season. In round 3, Old Glory DC got up against the New England Free Jacks 21-19. Anthem RC got yet another victory, this time against the Seattle Seawolves 34-25. And the Chicago Hounds beat the California Legion. Now last weekend, Old Glory DC got up against Anthem RC 31-14. Chicago Hounds big victory over the New England Free Jacks 50-26. And the Legion got up over the Seawolves 38-29. The Chicago Hounds are unbeaten, top of the table, maximum points. They're followed by the California Legion, Anthem RC, and Old Glory DC. To the South Africa Cup, whose top 4 will determine who's going to jump in to the Currie Cup Premiership Division. The Griquas are undefeated, 6 from 6, points differential, 338 maximum points. They're followed by the Pumas, who are 5 from 6, and the Cheetahs, the Eagles, and the Cavaliers are all 4 from 6. Big victories last weekend. The Pumas beat the Leopards 85-0, and the Cavs beat the Bulldogs 74 points to 5. With the Women's Six Nations being played currently, Premiership Women's Rugby is on a 2-month break. The 7 series hit Hong Kong as 4 more teams joined to make it a 12-team competition. Out of the outside qualifiers, the extra 4 teams, Spain made it through to the quarterfinals in the women's. However, as always, it was New Zealand versus Australia in the final, New Zealand winning 19 points to 14, 26 unbeaten games in a row. In the 3rd-4th playoff, it was France over Canada. In the men's out of the qualifiers, it was Kenya that made the quarterfinals, who nearly got an upset victory over South Africa in those quarters, but they did go down. South Africa ended up winning this one 35 points to 7 over Argentina in the final. New Zealand lost to Spain in the 3rd place, 32-28. Just a quick bit about me, Big Mike Rugby. I'm Big Mike. If you want me to talk about any games, any teams, any competitions, let me know. Best place to do that is anywhere you listen to this. I try and keep up with it, I really do. Okay, and the sad news coming out of Super Rugby is Moana Pacifica have announced that they will very likely be done from the next season unless they can magically come up with a whole bunch of money. So someone give me 10 mil and I'll keep the team rolling. So what do we have this week upcoming in rugby? Let's look at that international women's rugby. We've got the Six Nations continuing as England hosts Wales, Italy hosts Scotland, and in a battle that will potentially be for second place, it is France hosting Ireland. The Pacific 4 finishes on Anzac Day as the USA plays Canada for second place, and Australia will be looking for their first ever victory over New Zealand. In the URC, we have a top 4 battle as the Stormers are taking on Glasgow. Other games with top teams include Leinster away from home against Benetton, and the Lions will be hosting Connacht. We've got Cardiff taking on Ospreys, Edinburgh versus the Sharks, Zebre versus Dragons. Munster and Ulster, couple of Irish heavyweights looking for that next step up. Scarlets taking on the Bulls as well. Top 14. We've got Stade Francais versus Pau. That is 4th taking on 2nd. Also Lyon take on Castries, Toulon take on Bayonne, Montauban take on Racing 92, Perpignan take on La Rochelle, Bordeaux host Montpellier, and Toulouse host Clermont. There are a whole bunch of games happening in D2 as well, but it's looking like Barn is running away from that one, so we might leave it until the playoffs. In round 14 of 18 in the Premiership, Newcastle take on Bristol, Harlequins take on Sale, Saracens take on Leicester, Big One Northampton are taking on Bath, another top of the table clash. And we've got Gloucester versus Exeter. That is 2 top of the table clashes in the URC and in the Premiership. Japan League 1 Division 1 brings us the D-Rocks versus the Blue Revs. The Wild Knights taking on the Dynaboars, trying to stay up top of the table for the Wild Knights. Brave Lupus holding on to 6th place. They are taking on the Cannon Eagles. Top 6 battle, Kobe Steelers versus Tokyo Sun Goliath. Kubota Spears versus Honda Heat. And the Black Rams taking on 7th place Toyota Blitz. Super Rugby has Super Round in Christchurch in the brand new stadium. It's going to open with the Crusaders taking on the Waratahs. Brumbies will be looking to finish their bingo card of beating New Zealand teams as they take on the Hurricanes on Anzac Day. Second Anzac Day clash will be the Battle of the Colours, Blues versus Reds. And then we've got the Pacifica Flair on Sunday as the Highlanders take on Moana Pacifica, and the Chiefs face the Fijian Drua. In Major League Rugby, top of the table Chicago Hounds are taking on the Seattle Seawolves. We've got the Free Jacks taking on Anthem RC, and Old Glory versus the California Legion. Top of the table clash in the South Africa Cup as the Griquas take on the Pumas. Also got the Eagles versus the Griffins, Avalka versus the Cheetahs, the Leopards versus the Cavaliers, and Eastern Province versus the Border Bulldog. Super Rugby Americas also keeps going. At the moment, it is looking very Argentina heavy as the 4 Argentinian teams are your top 4, closely followed by Selknam of Chile. This weekend does see Dogos taking on Pampas. as well as Cobras taking on the Capybaras, and Tarukas taking on Penarol. South Nam will be looking to get up into that top four against Yakare. Alright, let's take a quick look into this weekend's games as Big Mike's Big 3 games hits ya. If you've only got time to watch one, follow one, see one, whatever. Maybe make sure it's one of these guys. Okay, we're going to start with our top of the table clashes. First in the URC. It is Glasgow away from home against the Stormers. This is second versus first. Probably the reason Glasgow lost last week was saving all their big guns for this one. Second big game of the weekend sees top of the table in the Premiership as Northampton take on Bath. Winner of this one will be in first place going into the final rounds. And for me, our third big game of the week is the Hurricanes taking on the Brumbies in Super Rugby. Can the Brumbies do the impossible and beat all 5 New Zealand teams in a year? Can the Hurricanes get back on top of the table? Alright, that's enough of me this week. Hopefully that worked for you. I'm recording this in my wardrobe to try and not wake up any children. I hope you all have a beautiful week and you go and watch some beautiful rugby.